matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Sweet. And we're back. Taylor, can you just do the introduction? Because I'm going to keep doing the 2-day thing.
You don't have to. I mean, we do whatever we want to do, but hello. Welcome to Doomed to Fail, the podcast where we talk about historical or true crime relationship or thing that was doomed to fail, that was never going to make it.
Experiences.
Histories, tragedies, experiences, things that happened. And today we're going to go into a historical story. And I told you, Fars, that I am drinking some wine because, as expected, we're going back to ancient Rome and we're going to do volcanoes, part 2.
No way! Yay! Okay, I'm excited about the volcano stories. I know that we're not a volcano podcast, but like we can kind of be a volcano podcast. Like,
it's part 2 of 7 volcanoes. So this is the one. This is the story of Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius.
Yay! Okay, I'm excited about
Let
this.
me find it. Have you been to Pompeii? Did you talk about this yet?
No, I have a thing that I just refuse to do anything that's popular because I'm a
Oh, right. There's
contrarian
a lot of
and I'm
people there.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm too cool. Okay, so like
You should go.
no, I'm not going to. I mean, you literally told me how
So
boring it was. You
cool.
literally
I did
told me
not tell you how boring
was.
it was.
You
I
were
didn't
like,
tell you it was boring.
You're like, it actually seems flat and there's like nothing there, is what you told me.
I don't think I said that because I want to talk about how cool it is like 9 times in this. So I take umbrage with that accusation.
One of us is a liar, and I bet it's me.
Okay. So I watched a couple YouTube videos, one with Dan Snow, who's from History Hit, who I'm watching a lot of his stuff. It's really great. There's some kind of more academic things I read, one about the amphitheater, one about some bones we'll talk about later, and obviously like Wikipedia to get some dates right. And I also watched the 2014 movie Pompeii. Have you seen that?
Who was that a Ben is that a Jerry Bruckheimer thing?
No, it's Paul W.S. Anderson. I have more to talk about it later. I'll talk about it more
Cool.
later, but
All
I
right.
watched that. It's fun. It's not great, but it's fun. So
Okay.
this is a story that's like, you think this could never happen to us. And when you think about archaeology and looking at these like ancient cities and things, even like finding ruins of things that aren't as well preserved as Pompeii, the thing that I think of is like, could anyone ever excavate my house? Like, could that happen to me? You know, like if today during this hurricane, the mountain next to me falls on my house, will they find my house in 2,000 years? And what will they know about me? You know, things like that. Because you think it will never happen, but the people of Pompeii never thought this would happen to them. You know, like every
I think
town that we excavate, they didn't know.
I think the reason why they like to excavate those things is because there was no real written history, and so the only way to totally understand how people lived was that. But I bet people will know in like 1,000 years probably how you lived.
Yeah, I think yes, I think you're probably right, but I also think that because I think that our civilization is like at like a pinnacle peak part, and it probably isn't.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a lot. We have these books. This is not my line. We have these books that are like describing the world to kids in a way to tell them that religion is fake and there is no magic, but it's still cool, you know? And there's one of them where it's like, you're like, oh, this world is like perfect for us. And it goes back and it's like every time in evolution, whatever it was like, this world's perfect for me. And then something weird happened, and then you evolved into the next thing, you know? So it's kind of like,
I do wonder between the two of us in 3,000 years, or if there was aliens that showed up and we're all dead and buried, whether they would dig my house up or your house first.
we did have a big hole in the backyard because of a rainstorm, and we had a tractor come and fill it in, but I put a beach ball in it just to confuse future archaeologists.
That is very on brand for you, Taylor.
Thank you. So they'll be like, was there a beach here? What is happening? When they find that in the hole in my backyard in 10,000 years.
Oh, I love it.
So there's also obviously a Dan Carlin story where he is obsessed with this one king at one point Xenophon sees the ruins of this city and he says, "What is that?" And the people around are like, "We don't know," but it was Nineveh, which is was a huge bustling city 200 years before, and 200 years later, it's in ruins and no one remembers that. So like
Yeah.
kind of crazy. So I'm going to read you a quote from Pliny the Younger. I'll tell you more about him later, but just going to tell you a little bit about what it was like the day in 79 AD when Mount Vesuvius erupted and destroyed the city of Pompeii.
How does Pliny the Elder know this?
I will tell you in a little bit, but I'm
Okay.
setting the scene.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. You could hear the shrieks of women, the wailing of infants, and the shouting of men. Some were calling their parents, others their children or their wives, trying to recognize them by their voices. People bewailed their own fate or that of their relatives, and there were some who prayed for death in their terror of dying. Many besought the aid of the gods, but still more imagined that there were no gods left, that the universe was plunged into eternal darkness forevermore. So like
Okay. That's
it's just
intense.
shit's getting destroyed. It's super intense. So we're going to talk about what Pompeii was, the city and the area, what happened in 79 AD, and then how we found it, because
Okay.
that's a super cool story too. So Pompeii is in Italy, obviously. People have been living in that area, so far as we know, since about negative 8,000. Again, I'm doing negatives, negative 8,000. There were Etruscans, Samnites, the Punic Wars that Dan Carlin has a whole big thing on happened around there. But now we're like just taking over to the positive years, like 50s, 50, year 50-ish, and it is now in Roman territory. So the Roman Empire is, building and growing all over Europe, and that is what Pompeii is kind of under. It's actually a fun story about Emperor Nero, who we talked about a very long time ago, but Emperor Nero had to kind of in 59, in like the year 59, there was a riot in Pompeii because from Pompeii and the city of Nuceria, which was nearby, there was like a gladiator thing and like a race or whatever, and they got in like a bunch of fights and a bunch of people died, and it was like a huge riot and chaos. So Nero was like, fine, you guys can't have gladiators for 10 years. So he took away their right to have like gladiators in Pompeii. They probably didn't actually like wait all 10 years, but that's how they got punished and they got in trouble for having this big riot. And Emperor Nero did that, which is fun.
All the gladiators like, thank God.
I know, like for real, can I just like be a
We
regular
just
slave now
keep
and not one that's
this.
gonna get eaten by a lion? Yeah. So Pompeii's on the coast. It's beautiful. It's close to Naples. I've been to Naples. I had a terrible time in Naples. I had like the weirdest time. It was like half under construction and like it was just weird. But I did get to go to Pompeii and I'm glad that I did. And you kind of take the train down, like Sorrento, like the Italian coast. It's so pretty. I think the day I went to Pompeii was like maybe the same day I went to Capri. Like it's just gorgeous. There's another town near Pompeii called Herculaneum, which was also destroyed by Mount Vesuvius in 79. And I'll talk a little bit about that too, but Pompeii is like the famous one. So it was also a vacation town. So some rich Romans, people who lived like literally in Rome, would have like a vacation villa in Pompeii. So it's just like a nice place to be.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather by the beach. So I was took some notes as I was watching the 2014 movie. So Paul W.S. Anderson, he's the director. He did Event Horizon in a bunch of
Oh,
Resident Evils, some stuff that we love.
God.
This is not his
Event
best film,
Horizon. Guys,
but
Event
Event Horizon
Horizon is
is his
like
best film.
you can watch that over and over and over and over. It's like crack.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so good. So, the guy who played Jon Snow is the main character, um, in Game of Thrones. Kit Harington. Kit Harington.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's fun. This is an aside, that the guy who invented vaccines was named Jon Snow, which
Really?
is fun. And then another fun one that always makes me laugh, which is dumb, but the first like white person to go into Imperial Japan and kind of see what they were doing there on their island, where they were like, kind of isolated, was named Matthew Perry, which makes me laugh every single time I hear it.
Sound
Um,
interesting.
yeah. So in the movie, Kit Harington plays a slave. In this time in Rome, which we talked about before, there's tons of enslaved people. It's not really about race, it's about just conquering. So he plays a Celt, and the Romans come and they, come to Britain, kill his family, take him on as a slave. He's a kid kind of wandering around, which I hate 'cause the idea of a child being alone. And then someone like grabs him and he becomes a gladiator. Also in the film, Kiefer Sutherland isn't it as like a baddie, and he is a senator. And another thing that I always find hilarious is that Roman senators, like in this time, 2,000 years ago, just had like regular dude haircuts. You know?
Like in real life?
Yeah, like, they just like looked. They had like their haircut was like kind of not like shaved, but like a close, just like nicely cropped haircut, and just like it's like a regular dude haircut. And you're just like,
Interesting.
because I feel like I don't know, I just feel like it should be different, but it's not. It's very like their heads look very modern when they're wearing togas, but that was the style then.
No, but the toga gives away the time.
Yeah. So the reason that I like the movie and that things about it that it kind of gives you an idea of what it looked like then, like what it felt like when people were actually living there. And it feels very, very modern. So stuff that they found in Pompeii, there were at least 31 bakeries, there were baths, there were bars, there were stores. They found a fast food restaurant that I'll tell you about in a little bit, an outdoor market. There's like, the streets are very well like made. There's these big stepping stones that you have to step to cross the street because there's like always chariots going by. There's, kind of water rushing through. There's horse poop everywhere. So like it's people were really actively living there and living their lives there. The things that you miss from excavations and from the ruins are like the colors and the fabric and the wood and like the things that just like kind
The
of like
richness.
filled in. Yes, exactly. The richness of it. When you think about ancient Rome, you think about like, for the most part, I feel like you think about cold, like white marble and like, all those things, but it wasn't white, it was painted. Like even in like ancient Greece, like the Acropolis was painted. Like that paint just has to come off after 2,000 years, but things were really bright. There were bright colors, there were overhangs and curtains and clothes and just people like living their lives, and they had all this stuff, and this stuff isn't there anymore, but like we just have like the outline of it, some things
Yeah.
don't, you know um and what else? So okay, so there's some cool things that are in Pompeii. There's like a big amphitheater that we'll talk about, and it's just a shadow of the past, but it's the best shadow that we have of what life was like in the Roman Empire. And I'll tell you a little bit of why. So Pompeii stood in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. And obviously at this time they're like natural disasters are because of the gods. Like we piss someone off, we have to like do sacrifice a goat or like whatever. But they didn't know about volcanoes because how would they know about volcanoes? They don't know.
Right.
You know, like you just have never heard of it before. How would you even think about a mountain exploding? You just like didn't know. So I've actually been to Mount Vesuvius. I've been to Pompeii. Do you remember that joke from Zoolander? Have you seen Zoolander?
Oh God, yeah, like 80 times.
So when Hansel's telling that story, and then he's like, Hansel, have you been taking peyote for like 6 straight days? Could this be in your head? And he's like, it was. I've never been to Mount Vesuvius. Like, I think it makes me laugh so hard. He's like, falling off Mount Vesuvius. Could this be in your head? Haven't you been smoking peyote for 6 straight days? Like, yes. So when I went there, it was so hilarious and like kind of awful because you had kind of like walk around it. And when you get to the top, they made you pay like 5 more euros to see the middle. And I was like, fuck you. So I had to pay like 5 more euros, got to the top, and you kind of look over the edge of the volcano. And it's like, like a flat,
Oh, you
sandy
walk up the
area.
volcano?
Yeah. hmm
It's not active, right?
It is active. All volcanoes are active, but it's not like gonna erupt tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
It's not totally dead because when you look over the edge, like it is trying to like in my memory, it's like a flat sandy area that is smoky a little bit. Like it's hot.
So
So
wait,
you can
when you
tell
look in, can you see the magma?
no, you just see sand, but you can like tell that it's hot.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then also, do you know who else climbed Mount Vesuvius? Is Mary Shelley.
Jesus.
Mary
Oh.
Shelley. The Shelleys did that on their tour of Europe, which is fun. Um, so anyway, it's cool. I think we should go to Italy. It's very fun. So now it is in like year 60 AD, positive 60, the Emperor Titus is in Rome, and things are getting a little bit weird. There's always been some like small earthquakes in the area, and you just kind of like make a sacrifice and hope for the best. On February 5th, the year 62, there was a great earthquake. It was probably a 5 or 6 on the Richter scale, and it was a feast day. People were preparing for a party, and there was tons of damage in Pompeii. There were a lot of fires because oil lamps fell over and like caught things on fire. There's a lot of things that just kind of crumbled to the ground. So they took this opportunity to update some things. So now we can see that some things were pre the Great Earthquake and updated after. They were rebuilt or they were fixed, stuff like that. So they built public baths after this. They put like a veneer over some things. But the people who remember the Great Earthquake are rattled. Like they remember and they're scared because it was scary. You don't even
Yeah.
know, you don't know what that was. You don't know what the fuck just happened. And so in the year 65, Emperor Nero and Pompeia, his wife, visited Pompeii. We know that they were there. This is probably around the time that Nero performed in Naples. Remember how he like sang
Ah,
everywhere?
yes.
It was like,
Yes,
I'm
and
best.
won every competition.
Yeah, you had to be like, oh my God, he's so good at singing and playing the violin or whatever. And so Nero has been there, but now it's 79. So at 79, and Mount Vesuvius begins to erupt. So originally we thought from like the stuff that we know is that it was in August, but now they think it was actually the 24th to 25th of October. We'll never know like exactly for sure. But when they started excavating more things, they found things like they could tell the fruit being sold were fall fruits and that they were selling like dried summer fruits. So like it was making that transition into fall. People were wearing more clothing than you would in August. So they like think that it was October, but I guess we'll never know. Pompeii had a population of anywhere from like 11 to 2 to 20,000 people. It's hard to tell exactly how many people live
Yeah,
there. Some people had vacation homes there too, so there could have been some empty houses.
right.
You know what I mean? Um, the eruption lasted 2 days, and we know about it from Pliny the Younger, who I quoted earlier. And he lived in Naples, and he could see everything from the Bay of Naples, so he could see the smoke and he could see what was happening, but he wasn't affected by it. Like he didn't get hurt, so he like
Yeah,
watched it happen, and he wrote down his account 25 years later, and so that we know from what he said. So like also it's 25 years, 5 years after it happened, so it could potentially not be exact or whatever, but he was the nephew of Pliny the Elder. So they're elder and younger, who was eventually like, adopted by him. Like his dad died when he was really young. And Pliny the Elder was very famous. He was like a famous statesman. He was like a lawyer. He wrote the first encyclopedia, just like a real Roman scholar, Pliny the Elder. He was also an admiral in the Roman Navy. So he was like a really like big guy, physically as well. He was a big guy. So
yeah.
in 79, Pliny the Elder was 55. And so his nephew, the younger, is back in Naples, and Pliny the Elder gets a letter from his friend Rectina in Pompeii. She had a villa at the bottom of the mountain, and he got the letter in like time to go try to get her, which is she was probably like feeling rumblings and being like, I gotta get the fuck out of Dodge. You know,
Yeah,
like thinking about the earthquakes, like no concept of a volcano, but potentially an earthquake.
right.
So he goes to get her. And he tries to keep people calm. He like goes to sleep and like takes a nap and is like, everything's fine, you guys. Like, we're gonna get out of here. No big deal. Like trying to remain calm. Eventually the air starts to get smoky and like he probably had asthma. He was like really big and he dies of a heart attack. So he never leaves Pompeii. He stayed there, but I think his friends get out.
Wait, who elder?
The elder, yeah.
Okay,
So Pliny the Younger, one of his other things was like, I'm going to tell this story so that you know that my uncle was like trying to be a hero when he died,
right.
you know? So sip of wine, probably lots of wine. Hopefully people got drunk when this was happening because what else the fuck are you going to do?
What else? Yeah. What else is
So
there?
day one, pumice starts raining down from the top of the mountain, like burning rocks just coming into the city, like raining over the city. I mean, if you could fucking imagine that happening like in any city right now, and we understand what pumice is, just like what the fuck is going on? The gods are so mad at us. People start to leave. A lot of people were able to leave, and they took a lot of their expensive things. So some of the bodies they found later, like people had like all their jewels with them because they were trying to run away with like their stuff. Um, I learned about this, I think in college, I learned the story. There's a story where there was like a basement area, like a cellar, where they found a bunch of bodies later, and they probably suffocated in there. They probably were like, let's go underground, which I think would make sense. You would think that that would be
Yeah.
okay. But then when the city was covered, like they suffocated. But in that place, and they found a woman who was pregnant, so they found like, her bones with her baby's bones like on top of each other, but her bones were green because she was wearing a bunch of copper jewelry that ended up tarnishing.
Uh,
which is like super interesting that she was like in there holding her pregnant belly and like suffocating to death. Crazy. In the movie, the Pompeii, like this day is chaos, which totally makes sense. There's fire falling from the sky. Like you don't know what the fuck is going on. And I imagine that like the richer people could leave, which happens now and all the time. Like in 2020,
How
I could
would
leave a big
you
city.
leave?
You could take a boat and just leave. Like before the big eruption started, you could start to leave. You could take your horses and try to get far enough away. Like that was still potentially possible on day one.
Because it sounds like one of those things. Like, I mean, look, like, okay, so it doesn't matter if like the big one hits LA, if you live in Bel Air or Compton, like you're fucking dead, right?
Yeah.
So like this feels more like one of those situations where it's like it's gonna hit you, and then your opportunity to mitigate the impact is pretty limited.
But you have an entire day. Like you don't know what's coming, but it's still happening only like the first day is just as it's just raining rocks of fire. It's no big deal. Just
I know that's what I was thinking. I was like,
like
it
you're
sounds
right.
bad.
You're not wrong that it sounds fucking terrible. And yeah, and like on your way out, you can get hit in the head with a flying fire rock and die.
Yeah,
Like so I'm
yeah.
sure people died during that too, but people did leave, which is good. So they were able to get out before the really, really bad thing happened, because the really, really bad thing happened on day two. So day two is pyroclastic flow day, which you've learned about before. That's the day when that hot ass ash comes as fast as fucking possible and covers you and kills
Jesus.
you. Your brain boils. You die pretty immediately. Things catch on fire, but like they're encased so fast. So like there's things where I know we'll talk about the bodies in a second, but like there's doors that are like wooden doors that we have plaster molds of because the ash just like came around it so fast the doors burned, but it left the imprint inside the ash.
Wow.
So it's fast and hot. It's coming just so fucking fast.
That's the thing that I remember because my dad told me about Vesuvius when I was a kid before, like, he's like, my son's gonna be a scientist. And
So close.
I barely missed the mark. But he told me about Vesuvius and I looked it up and his main thing was like, yeah, like preserved everything because it was so hot, so fast, like you just have it reminded me a lot of like atomic bombs and how like it like
Yeah.
there's a memory that it leaves behind because of its ferocity that's very unusual.
Yeah,
That's what it made me
exactly.
think of. But I'm sure you're
That's
going
very
to talk about that.
no, that's very deep. I get it.
Yes. Yes. He should have
Yeah.
tried to make me a poet because that's obviously where my calling was.
I think this is where you're headed. Um, so yeah, by the end of day two, the eruption was over and it would have been quiet and smoky and like weird because there's a whole like first floor of the whole city is under this ash. So imagine if like the first floor of an entire city is just hot ash now. There are some rescue efforts that Emperor Titus tries to do. He sends people, but there's nothing they can do. Like they know that everybody under the ash is dead. Like there's no one they can save. Looters and robbers go in and they're able to see like, oh, I see the second story of this building. I know this building was a rich person's house, and they do try to like dig in and steal things. So some of the stuff is like kind of destroyed by looters, which again, people don't change. That fucking happens today,
No.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so some of that happens. Eventually, there's like another small eruption in like 500 that kind of covers everything that's left. So, and then the second stories that were above the ash, they get destroyed by like that and like the weather. Herculaneum, the other town that was destroyed, that one got more ash. So actually, it does have 2 stories worth of ash. So there's a lot more we can see there, but it's also harder to excavate because of that.
Right.
Makes sense. Um, and then people like forgot. They forgot it was there. It was like a rumor and like a legend. Like if you were alive when it was a town you went to, maybe you told your kids, but 2 generations later, no one remembered. And it was just like an area that by the
Was
beach. It
empty.
changed the coastline. It was empty, and Rome fell, other things happened, so they just forgot that it was there. And it's like when you go to Rome, there's if you're like in the subway in Rome in like underground, there's like parts of it where they have like you know glass and you can see Roman ruins because it was like ancient Rome and then like Renaissance Rome and then like now Rome and it just keeps building on top of each other. So they just like if you can't like build anything new in Rome, you're gonna find fucking something awesome, you know?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just like
Makes
happens to be
sense.
there. But Rome didn't get destroyed, it just continued. So that's why we don't know a lot of what life was like in actual ancient Rome, the city, because it's always been a city, you know? So
Right.
you just like adapt and continue to do things. So um in now let's get so that happened, that day happened, a lot of people died. It was probably a fucking horror show. Who knows? When they died, mercifully, they died really fast if they got like caught by the ash.
Did basically everybody die? Is that what the gist is?
They think about like they really don't know. I have read something that was like 16,000 people died, but I know some people had like left, but no one like was there
Knows.
the next day. You know, like either you left or you died. There was no
Yeah.
like survivors.
Right.
Um, so in 1592, so like 1500 years later, an architect named Domenico Fontana was digging for an aqueduct and he found some ancient walls and paintings. So he was like digging his well and he was like, this is weird. And like found like a cavern in Herculaneum that was like a room. And there's rooms underground there they didn't know were there because they had been like encapsulated in the ash.
Yeah.
In the Dan Snow documentary I watched, like, he has to go in there and there's just like an underground amphitheater. It's like bananas. You can see where people used to sit and like walk and all these things because it was just like
Dude,
covered by things.
think of how many of those probably. So when I was in Lisbon, I was walking somewhere. I don't know where I was, but Lisbon's also like a super super old city, kind of like
Hmm.
well, Portugal in general is an old country, and it was weird. Like you're in the middle of the city, and you look over, and the whole thing is packed full of buildings everywhere, and there's this gape like in the middle of the city, in the middle of the
Hmm.
street, and you meander down there, and they're like, yeah, we were about to knock this building down to build another building there. And then when we took it down to its foundations and went a layer deeper, we realized that underneath that was an amphitheater. There's this
That's so cool.
millennia's old
Yeah.
amphitheater. Like, what the fuck? It's just, you're walking. Dude, I don't know what's underneath you. There could be like the home of like the former president. I don't know. I'm making shit up. Like, probably a chief.
No,
Like, there's probably stuff
absolutely.
everywhere.
And I have a couple stories that reminds me of one. I told the kids, I was like, we have to go to Paris. Paris is built on top of bones. Like we got to go into like the what's it called in Paris where like there's
Yeah,
all
the
like the people
catacombs.
catacombs, exactly. There was also King Richard III of England was found in a parking lot in like Leicestershire. Like they were like building a parking lot and they found a dead king because that was like they just like didn't do a thing. And then another one, remember that Darren Kuyu, that city in Turkey where it's
No.
like all underground. So
Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
farm,
You told me.
that
Yeah, yeah.
farmer who like found it, so fucking cool. It's like a city, an underground city that could hold 20,000 people that a farmer just like accidentally found.
So I
Like
bet there's probably a lot of those out there still.
there's so many. Um, I think they found like the Laocoon, which is like a really famous like Roman statue in a farm as well. Like there's just things that are like buried in there. It's so cool. Um, but Domenico Fontana didn't really tell anyone that he had found this, so he just like kind of let it go. In the 1690s, some people started to see the word Pompeius carved onto things. So they were like, that's weird. They just kept kind of like seeing things carved on things as they like kind of went lower. But they didn't really like do anything more than that. Herculaneum was officially rediscovered in 1738 by workers digging for the foundations of a summer palace for the King of Naples, Charles of Bourbon, who was French. And they started to kind of dig it up. In 1763, they officially identified Pompeii. The first thing that they found was the amphitheater. They just like tripped over a rock, started to dig, and they were like, "Oh, it's a step. Oh, it's another step. Oh, it's another step." Then they found a fucking huge amphitheater, just like you were saying.
Crazy.
And that was like the first thing that they found. Um, so it's 1760s, and who's in charge of Italy? The French, and who's in charge of France?
Napoleon.
Napoleon. So Napoleon, like all rulers, wants to be an emperor. He's like, I want to be an emperor. I identify with Roman emperors. Like, fuck you. Sure you do. So do I. Whatever.
Short man
I identify
complex. Got
I
it.
identify with rich people, make me rich. But his sister, Caroline Bonaparte, was the Queen of Naples, which is hilarious. And she was put in charge of excavations. So Caroline Bonaparte had people go and dig up the outside of Pompeii. So they dug up the outer wall so they could see what they were working with, which is pretty cool.
Okay. The
So
outer wall
she,
of the amphitheater?
no, of the entire city.
Oh.
So they like found the outer wall and started digging all the way around. And so they like wanted to kind of start mapping out exactly what Pompeii was. So she did that. Eventually, Italy took it back and started to do, or like whatever that means. I don't know, sorry, Italian historians, but it's Italy again, and they started excavating. There's some breaks, but they found some incredible homes, some huge villas where they can see courtyards and different rooms, and where people like went to the bathroom and slept and cooked and things like that. And the thing that is so fucking cool is that they're all painted and mosaicked, and that's what you don't see anywhere else because it was saved. It was like in a time capsule underneath all this ash. The paints are bright red and bright yellow, and the mosaics are brightly colored. So you can tell that like it wasn't just like marble, it's like a really bright city. Obviously, there's like the paintings of like people having sex and things that people get super excited about because like it was like a Roman time. There's debauchery. It's super fun. They find a gladiator barracks that's actually 2 stories and has intact gladiator helmets. So we know exactly what they wore and exactly what their life was like from that. They find bakeries and restaurants with bread still in the ovens. Like they can like really dig in and like find all this stuff and it is in color for the first time, which is super cool.
The frescoes are oddly like preserved. Like it does look
And they're nowhere else. There's no, well, there's probably more buried somewhere, but like you don't see that in Rome in other cities because of time.
well, it's weird because you would assume that the heat and the ash would have destroyed the paint, but I guess
hmm
not.
It didn't. It just like kept it in a lot of cases. So it's really, really beautiful. You can see what people wore. You can see like there's children, there's people just like living their lives. A lot of like daily life scenes that are
Oh,
painted.
they excavated like the whole thing. Like, I mean, the whole city is there
I
now.
think there's a little bit left, but yeah, most of it. Well, they're still finding stuff, which I'll tell you about in 1 second. But they kept finding holes of like pockets of air, and in the pockets of air there were skeletons. So they kept finding skeletons in these pockets of air. And in 1863, a man named Giuseppe Fiorelli took charge of excavations, and he decided that those to put plaster in those holes and see what was in there. And he found that they were like a perfect cast of the bodies. And that's what you've seen from Pompeii, the people's
Yeah,
bodies, is
yeah.
because the ash cooled around them so quickly, their bodies decomposed in that space. So if you went into that space, their bones are in the ground. The shape of it is the shape of the person.
It's like a sarcophagus. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So it's just like it's like actually like exactly the way their bodies were. You can see the fear on their faces. You can see children, you can see dogs.
Dude,
They had because Romans had dogs like on leashes. They had like pets, so you would like see them too.
one of the pictures I saw was a guy with teeth.
Well, it's not his actual teeth, but it's like the preservation of the teeth.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
know what I mean? It's like if someone like if you make a mold of something, like you would put
Right,
something in
right.
plaster, whatever. So it's exactly like a mold of the humans, and that's what they're finding. So you can really see like people were running for their lives.
Yeah.
They were scared. They're like holding each other, and there's places where they find like a bunch of people together, and you're like, did they know each other? Like we'll never know. Like was it a family? Was it people who were running together and found each other and tried to find safety somewhere? Like whatever, but people like huddled together because like they're gonna die. They still do that today. They're still finding these pockets with bodies. They use resin now instead of plaster because it's more durable and they can keep the bones, but they're still doing that, and that was in 1863. So then, fast forward to the 1930s, and Mussolini is now in charge of Italy, and he really wants to go back in and start doing that like we're ancient Romans. Let's do a lot more excavating. So he goes, but they go back in, kind of brings it up again. He finds not he, but like they find a gymnasium that has these awesome mosaics of people like working out. It has people swimming, people like doing like stretches, and just like it was like a gym where people like worked out. Just like such a normal city,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, So um, during World War II, the excavation stopped because there was other shit to do. In 1943, Pompeii was bombed by the British, Americans, and Canadians. Um, they said like, "Oh, it was an accident. We didn't mean to." Like, fuck you. Of course you did. Whatever. So some of it was destroyed by World War II bombs, but luckily not everything. But there's a house called like the House of the Fallen where you can see a shell from a bomb, from a World War II bomb, because we did that then. So that brings us to now. At the beginning, the excavation was like very haphazard because it was 300 years ago, so they would just like push things over and like try to dig with like whatever. Now it's a lot more meticulous, obviously. And like we said about the bright colors and things like that, like now Pompeii is actually exposed to the elements. Now it's starting to get destroyed by like
That's the downside.
the earth. Yeah. So we can see it, but now it's out there. So now that it's out here, like, just like regular elements, rain and wind, and things are starting to fade. You can also like really go there. Like I remember I touched a wall. I touched a fresco because I was like, and I was like walking on mosaics. You could like really walk in it. I think they maybe have pulled that back a little bit because that was 20 years ago. Um, I read a story a while ago. I don't know where I read it, but like some person was like they took a rock home from Pompeii and they were like cursed forever. So like don't steal shit from Pompeii, but I'm sure there's like a gift shop. Um, but they're still finding stuff. So in 2020, they found a fast food place. So it's a restaurant, like they found like a building with a restaurant and it has this like low counter. And in the counter, there are holes with pots in them. And in front of each pot is a painting of like a chicken or a fish or a lamb. So you could like go there and be like, oh, I'll have the chicken. And they would like put it in like a bowl and you could take it with you.
That's
You just
pretty
like go
cool.
with it, which is super cool. Or you could like sit in there and like eat and drink. So there's like restaurants, people like really living. Um, and in 2021, they found a chariot and a mummified freed slave. So they found like some more things. So they're still finding things. And it's so cool because I mean, hopefully it lasts, longer. But the fact that we have this time capsule about this ancient Roman city because of this awful tragedy, we can see what they ate and drank and did for fun. We can see who was there. We can learn so much about the entire Roman Empire. So I also wanted to announce that I'm quitting my job and moving to Pompeii to work there.
Congratulations. Wow, the big
Thank
reveal.
you. I'm
The
real
big
that's
reveal.
a big reveal. I'm very excited. I have not been offered a job, but I think I'm gonna show up with like a paintbrush and like some hope and be like, hey guys, what can I do for you? I really want to just live here and figure out what happened because it's so fucking cool. Until it explodes again because 4 million people live in the area now.
So, looking at pictures of Pompeii, I would say that the interesting part about it, like mentally, is that it looks like any like old city
Hmm.
because they dug it all up. But the part you have to keep remembering is like it's like 2,000 years old. Like it
Yeah.
shouldn't look the way it looks, which is
Hmm.
like the interesting part because it look. I mean, with like Lisbon, it looks like a part of Lisbon or anywhere else that's
Hmm.
been around for a very, very long time.
Hmm.
But you got to remember that like it shouldn't look this good, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't look that good and it looks great. And then you also have to like use your imagination for that second layer. Like imagine the second story, imagine fabric, imagine wood, imagine animals, imagine people, like bring it to life a little bit, which I think that's why I liked the movie because it kind of brings it a little bit to life, even though it's silly. Um, but
It
it's,
looks silly. I looked at the screen
it's very
grabs of it.
silly.
It looks really
It's
it
on Hulu. You
looks
can watch it. Yeah,
not
it's
great.
quite silly. Yeah. But it's cool. I think you should go.
All right,
I
well, that can be
enjoyed it.
next on the agenda.
Cool.
Wow, yeah, these frescoes are really, really cool.
Isn't it
Wow, they're
cool? It's
so
so
artic.
bright.
They're so yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
Because
like the reds.
when you picture Pompeii, like it's just like a lot of like just dead gray
Hmm.
darkness, and then no, it's actually really, really beautiful.
And that's like the inside of someone's house. So like if you were like a rich person in Pompeii, like the inside of your house would be covered with like bright red like trim and frescoes of people like having fun, of like you and your family's accomplishments and shit. So
All right,
cool.
so if you had to choose, how are you going? Giant earthquake or giant volcano?
I feel like this is like the longest pause ever. The volcano would be very quick, but it'd be very scary. But the earthquake, I hate the idea of being stuck in a fallen building. Remember that apartment
Mm,
collapsed in Miami like a couple like last year or whatever? Like
yeah.
people, they didn't find any survivors, but people could have technically been there for like a week
Yeah.
and they just died. That is awful. So maybe
That
the
is
volcano
awful.
was quicker. Yeah.
Okay. This is a two-part question.
Okay.
So, volcano or ill-constructed marine vessel to the bottom of the ocean to see the Titanic?
Oh my God. Volcano. I don't know why. I feel safer where there's air, even though I know the air is about to kill me. The fact that there is no air in that thing, I think I don't like that. What do you think?
I think if you were to just drug me, blindfold me, tie me
That's not an
down,
option.
and then put me in the Titanic submersible, I'd probably pick that because when it happens, you don't even know it happened.
Well, you can't be drugged and tied down. You have to like be like, what's happening? I don't know. Are we going up?
I don't know. If I'm paying that
That's
much
my death
money, I think I
sound.
can just choose. I choose
You can,
how it
you can
happens.
die in a volcano for free. Um,
It's your point. Actually,
yeah.
yeah, from an economic financial perspective, that would be the most reason. I mean, that Ramsey character, he would definitely recommend that, whatever his name is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So crazy day, crazy thing that happened there. But super cool for us that we get to see that history. It's fucking fascinating. It's like, everything else we know from like fucking bits of pottery, and this is like a whole thing. We can really like see stories and stuff. So it's cool. There's
Sweet.
one I didn't say, I forgot to mention this. There's like a house that they know was owned by a woman who lived alone named Julia, and she would rent out parts of her house. So she was like
The first
an
Airbnb.
entrepreneur. Yeah, exactly. A little Airbnb in Pompeii, and it would have been really fucking nice
Do
until it
we
wasn't.
do we know how they know she rented out that house?
Yes, on the side of her house is carved an advertisement that says rooms for rent.
That's incredible. That's
Is
so
that
cool.
cool?
That's so
I
cool.
know. It's so cool.
I might go to
Yeah.
Pompeii. You might have convinced me.
I think we should go together.
I'm
Yeah, I
down.
definitely want to go. That sounds great.
Sweet. Well, Taylor, thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
I will say that I just pulled up the recent article about Hillary, and it says take this seriously.
Okay, yeah,
So everybody seems to be taking it seriously. So
it's
please
getting a little
do.
darker out my window. Yeah, it's happening.
Well, if you and the kids and Juan need a place to flee to, you got a place here. So
Thank you. I will keep you posted. Yeah, good luck tomorrow.
unless I'm stuck there with you.
I know for real. You're gonna be living at the airport for the next couple days, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm used to that. Sweet.
Well, thank you. Cool. I have one announcement. I found out that my friend died today. So I just want to tell a little story. My friend Boy from high school, his name was Nathan, but they called him Boy, which was cute. He was so cute. He was so 90s cute. I had the biggest freaking crush on him. And his house was like the fun house, and his sister, Neva, I was talking with her today a little bit how sad I am. And but you could just like do whatever the fuck you wanted at their house, and it was just like so fun. And you would always just like have big parties, and their parents like didn't care. And I remember one party, I was like super young. I was like 15 or 16, and I was like trying to sleep it off because I like drank a ton, and I was crying because I thought all my friends were prettier than me. And I remember I was laying in like I don't know what the fuck. I was laying on like a mattress on like the floor, and I can like picture the hot tears. I like remember the hot tears. And Boy came in the room and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "All my friends are prettier than me." And he was like, "No." And it was nothing nefarious. Like nothing happened, but he like gave me a really big hug. And I remember feeling the hot tears and feeling this like curly hair like all over my face because he was wearing this like huge blonde wig because he was like bald and he's wearing this like huge blonde curly wig and like comforting me, but I was like super confused because I was like drunk and sad, and it was just like this hair. And he was just a very very nice guy, and he left behind a wife and a young daughter, so really sad.
Jeez.
But
Jeez,
I
that
have nothing
sucks.
but good memories of hanging out with him, so I just wanted to share that.
He passed away today?
He passed away like this week.
Oh, but
Hmm.
you found out. Yeah, you told
Yeah.
you this. Wow, that sucks.
Hmm.
Isn't it weird? Like it's like we're at that age now where like this starts picking up speed.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's kind of wild.
Yeah. That's really
But
sad.
sorry to
I
hear
wish
that,
that,
Taylor.
thank you. I also wanted to make a plea to the LinkedIn and Facebook community that like if someone dies, please don't put them on my list of people that I have to add to my podcast, like on LinkedIn, because I've definitely invited several dead people to like our podcast, because otherwise they're just gonna be at the top of my list forever, you know?
Wait, why are you adding dead people to our podcast? What?
Because on LinkedIn, so we have our podcast, our page on LinkedIn for our podcast. You can follow it, everyone. But I'm inviting people, but I can only invite 250 people a month. So every month, at the beginning of the month, I invite 250 people of my friends on LinkedIn or whatever. But at the top of the list is in like, I don't know what order it's in, but at the very top of the list, if you don't invite someone, they're going to stay at the top of the list. So I had like Jim at the top of my list for like 2 months. And then I was like, I don't want to keep seeing Jim's face every month when I'm trying to invite people. Like it just makes me sad. So I just invited him. So he's off the list. You
Oh,
know
I
what I
see what you're
mean?
saying. I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But it's real sad. But there'll be more of that as we get older.
God, you just reminded me of shit, who was that? I don't know. It's like high school friends that like somebody that passed and their Facebook just stayed kind of stagnant forever. And but it
Yeah.
wasn't marked as a memorial site, and so the reminders keep coming up about their birthday.
Yeah.
Because if you I don't know how it works, but if you don't like tell Facebook that that person's dead, they'll just like pretend. I mean, it just does a normal Facebook thing, right? And so you got to tell them, and
Hmm.
then they stop pushing these remind. Anyways,
I know
yeah,
it was
it's
just my
weird.
friend Stephanie's birthday. She passed away last year, and I got them thing invite. And I think a couple people posted like "Happy birthday." I don't think that they knew because he wouldn't doesn't say on her
Yeah,
thing that she's passed. So I mean, I wrote like "I miss you," but I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, bummer, bummer situation. Um,
Um,
but apparently, we have a LinkedIn group, so join that, people.
we're on every social at Doomed to Fail Pod.
All the socials about to blow up.
Uh, yes, thank you everyone for your support. Please send us emails, send us Instagram messages. We definitely read them. We really appreciate it. And sign up for our email so you won't ever miss an episode. And
There
tell
you
your
go.
friends. Oh, thank you to my friend Christine who told a really fun story about an earthquake on Instagram. I reposted it, but she was telling the story, like the volcano episode reminded her of when she was in that 1994 earthquake in California, like
Yeah,
that big one,
Northridge.
Northridge. And she's so cute. She was like she was a kid and she had like built a fort and she was like in her fort and then it started happening and she was like, my fort is crashing down around me. And like it was so cute. So she's like, I'm super traumatized by everything, but it was sweet. Thank you for sharing.
That was very cute.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool.
Sweet. Well, thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
Lars.
Thanks, Sailor. Everyone, have a
Thanks.
great rest of your day. Bye all.